How's it
There we
going?
go. How's it going?
Good.
Very
Can you hear
good.
me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's good.
Awesome. Very good. So where are you calling from today? I know you guys have been sort of all over the place lately.
We're in, we've got a few days off. We fly to St. John's, Newfoundland tomorrow. So
Nice.
I'm in Windsor, Ontario, where I spent most of my youth. So,
And that's where the band, of course, originated, correct?
yeah, I mean, that's our origin. The band actually formed in Toronto when we were living there. Jeff Martin and myself had spent a couple of years up there. And then Jeff Burrows came up from Windsor, and we had an epic rehearsal for this side project, and that turned into the Tea Party. So,
Nice. And are you sipping tea now, or is that just a teacup?
of course,
Of course. Yeah, we got to stay on
that's how we
brand
keep
here.
our endorsements.
Exactly. We can't miss that.
Yeah,
So, I mean, in terms of Windsor, forgive me because I have very little time in Ontario. How far is that actually from like central Toronto?
3.5 hours. So,
Okay.
but
So there must be.
more
Yeah.
importantly, it's 2 minutes from Detroit, and that was
Okay.
our culture growing up. Detroit, Michigan, rock and roll. No Canadian content. So, it was about Iggy Pop, Bob Seger, Alice Cooper, all these great Detroit bands, and they loved Led Zeppelin in Detroit. They played the Pontiac Silverdome in 1977, and it was one of their most memorable shows. They were talking
Wow.
about that, Jimmy Page, Robert Plant. But so we didn't get a lot of the, Kim Mitchell and, Trooper and all these rock bands that might have made it in Toronto back when we were teenagers. But yeah.
Wow. So did you guys do a lot of shows in Detroit coming up, or were you
We
mostly in
did.
Windsor?
Yeah, I mean, Windsor was okay, but, we wanted to play to new faces. And, we played some strange clubs in Detroit. We played a reggae club right
Wow.
off Woodward in a really rough area, too. So
Mm.
it's like you have to hire somebody to watch the van and the equipment and all that sort of stuff. But, I mean, we moved as a band to Toronto, though. The band prior to the Tea Party, we were called the Stickmen, and
Okay.
we tried the club scene there. And we got an agent, and we got publishers interested. But I, unfortunately, was hit by a big truck on my little Vespa motor scooter, and I
Wow.
couldn't walk for 8 weeks. And that put a real damper on things. And as a result, the band kind of fell apart. But luckily, that dovetailed nicely into us forming the Tea Party.
So how exactly did that experience sort of change you or affect you going into the new group? I mean, can you talk about that?
Well, one nice thing, the accident was someone else's fault. So I got a bit of a settlement money wise, and I was
Okay.
able to invest in a band van, a video, a record, and I forget what else, so I
But
spent
some
my whole
stuff.
settlement on the band. So it was nice to be
Wow.
able to have that money for us to get off the ground, I guess. Oh, a video. Yeah. Did I say video? A video, a recording in a van. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So definitely it seemed like it was all sort of laid out in a good way then for you to start something new.
Yeah. Yeah. And at that point, I mean, we were always serious about music. We were separated from the other bands in high school, where they knew how to play guitar and bass, but we had dreams. We were recording ourselves. We were sending demos to record companies in England. And, we had dreams of like touring the world, and,
Right.
no one was going to help us. We had to help ourselves. So once we did have the van and the recording and the video, much music started playing, the indie record, and the indie record got a lot of support from HMV Records and Sam the Record Man in Toronto, which led to airplay on CFNY. So it was a real nice organic thing. Nobody just, we weren't some rich guy's kid that, he bought his way into the industry. It was like very,
Right.
very organic. So,
So
and
would you
that's,
say that?
I was just going to say that's partly why it's lasted so long too. So.
Yeah, no, that longevity, right? 100%. So I mean, would you say that much music and radio at that time were those the two main things in Canada to break an artist?
Yeah, I mean, when we started, we tried to get college radio, but we were kind of put into a box there because we didn't sound like the Pixies, and we weren't crazy like the Red Hot Chili Peppers at the time. I mean, those guys were naked with socks at that time
Right.
before they reformed and they became more mainstream, right? So it was difficult to get much music support, that's for sure. I mean, and they weren't the first. They were like one of the last people to come on board in a big way. But boy, did they ever help out once they came on board. And we in turn believed in videos, and we made 27 music videos. So
Wow.
I mean, it was a good time back then for us. A harder time for different styles of music. I mean, nowadays it's different. We all listen to different genres, and it might be easier to get your stuff released, but no one's paying attention to you anymore. So it's difficult.
So in what span did you guys make 27 music videos?
Well, the first one was 1991, and then I'm trying to think. We made a live video in 2019. So, actually, we made 2 videos over the course of the COVID isolation. So we had a guy from Australia.
For you guys.
Pardon me?
This is collectively for you guys then as a band.
Yeah, collectively. Yeah. I mean, Jeff Martin also, with his solo career, he's made at least half a dozen videos. So.
Unreal. So, I mean, you were mentioning how now it feels like things can get lost in the shuffle. I'm wondering if you can tell me more about that and maybe talk about, how things have changed since you guys started in the business compared to now.
I mean, we have a support team with our management, and, we do have a publisher still, or actually, I guess we don't have a publishing deal. We have a publisher for our catalog, but we do have people in our corner is what I'm saying. We have a great agent. So that helps us a lot. But with the streaming and different genres around the world, it's made it interesting from the fact that we can see exactly where we're being listened to. A great example would be Istanbul, Turkey. And I know this is a fact because I have a friend who's from Turkey, not Istanbul, but I met up with him and his friend who was from Istanbul, and he totally knew who the Tea Party was, which for me was just incredible, because we shot a video there in 1995, a long, long time ago. But he didn't forget because no rock bands would ever come to Istanbul, let alone shoot a video in Istanbul. So it was very noteworthy for him. But for us, we can see all the cities, like Toronto, Montreal, Sydney, Melbourne, maybe some other city, Vancouver, and then Istanbul.
Wow,
so
that's insane. Just pops up.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, with my video game soundtracks, it's even crazier because, the video games have gone around the world. So I can see stuff in India, stuff in Russia, stuff in Eastern Europe. So it's incredible.
Wow.
But I mean, I think one thing it enables us to do now, I think on this next record that we're going to start working on next year, we've decided finally, we do not care if it gets played on radio. We're going to do this for ourselves. So that might mean 2-minute songs. It might mean 7-minute songs. We're going to let the song and the artistic endeavor sort of dictate, the output. So there's no other extraneous things, and we have big plans actually to go to another country, embed ourselves in the culture there, and then write there, and then finish the record back in Vancouver, perhaps.
So that's going to be to be announced kind of thing. Will you guys be capturing this on video or anything?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, our plan is to have, obviously like a social media person or a team there. And
nice.
I think we'll bring in maybe a recording engineer just so we can concentrate just on the music. Because I know Jeff Martin likes to do a lot of that stuff, but I think just focusing on the artistic side more so than the technical would be a good thing.
Oh, we still there?
Oh, yeah, it froze for some reason. I don't know why.
Okay. I'm still wired in here.
My internet is still fine, but I think, there we go. Okay.
We're good?
Okay, we're moving now.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I got you. Perfect, man. Yeah, it's all good. This thing has
we must be at rush hour on Zoom.
Exactly, right? Yeah, 2:00 rush over here. So I was just going to ask, in terms of the radio process, like how does that affect creating? Does it, because it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're saying it's almost more constraining when you're trying to write something maybe for radio, and the way you're doing it now could maybe be more free. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I don't think you can try and write hits. You just have to try and write good music. And unfortunately, the managers and the record labels are like, well, we can't get this played on radio. And the unfortunate thing in the past was nobody knew you had a record out if it didn't get on radio, and
Right.
nobody would come to your show, et cetera, et cetera. But with streaming and with social media, I mean, every band can buy, a limited amount of at least advertising in the beginning to let people know that they have something going on. But
Yeah.
the idea is, though, you write good music and people spread the word. So, and that's really the goal for us, to write good music so people can tell others about it. So.
Which methods have been the most effective, in terms of the modern day ways to reach people? I know you mentioned the Spotify showing different cities. So, I mean, that must be a breeze when it comes to planning tours and stuff like that. It must help.
I think the best thing for us is if we're doing a tour and, unfortunately people for the first show have no idea what to expect, but, if we blow them away and then they just start spreading the word that, you can't miss this tour, the band is playing incredible, and that's actually the case with this summer tour. We were worried as we're getting older, are we going to forget things? Our music's not as complicated as some of the Rush music, YYZ or whatever, there's no 12-minute
Right.
song. But at the same time, there's a lot, for myself anyway, there's a lot of different instruments. And I mean, some of the songs were written over 30 years ago, so it's hard to remember.
How do you remember them?
Well, I mean, we obviously practiced before the tour started, but for us as a band, that's a bit difficult because Jeff Martin's in Australia, so we can only have, an intense rehearsal, but we pick it up pretty quick. I mean, we have maybe a day and a half and that's it. And we don't want to over rehearse. Like, I know Gordon Lightfoot has these sound checks where he'll perform the whole show and that works for him. But I think if we as a band did that, we would get bored and it wouldn't be as exciting. And an audience would pick up on that boredom and lack of excitement.
So, I mean, it's about keeping it fresh and spontaneous. So, I mean, it must keep sort of that almost band vibe from before you guys hit the big stages, Yeah,
definitely. I mean, we do like to insert new songs once in a while just to freshen up,
Yeah.
I think we're playing a bit of a Tragically Hip's Bob Cajun in the middle of a Messenger. And It's just completely unexpected from us, but it's such a great song. And, we're playing Under the Stars at a summer night, just the lyrics, everything ties together nicely. So.
What have been some of your favorite events with the group since the pandemic has began to finally lift in most areas? What's been the most exciting part of that so far?
Well, I love the big crowds, So in Quebec City, the crowd was 15,000 and we had 5,000 people that couldn't get into the grounds that were turned away.
That's wild.
So that was just incredible. And just out of that 15,000, we had maybe 4,000 Tea Party fans and 11,000 people that didn't really know who we were. So it was nice watching the reaction grow as the set went on. Because as a band, we don't just play one sound and then just continue to the end of the show and then taper off. Like we take you on, an emotional ride, and every song it's kind of a different genre almost. Like from world music to heavy rock to blues to acoustic stuff. So.
100%. I mean, it must be cool to watch the people who are new listeners in the crowd sort of get won over, because that's a big part of festivals.
Yeah, definitely. We also know some people have not seen us in our career, and they're making, incredible journeys from distant parts of America to overseas. I guess one girl flew from Australia to see us in Toronto, and then she flew back the next day. It was like,
that's insane. Oh my gosh. But that's loyalty, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's nice to see younger people. And I think, like we talked about genres a little while ago, there's still, we like to think hip hop and whether it be Drake or Kendrick Lamar is the ruling sound of today. And it is no doubt a big sound and it's all over streaming, but there are massive followings for rock music now. And you can see it online and, maybe more so in Europe at these gigantic festivals they have for rock music over there. But, we can kind of feel like a pendulum swinging back. I'm seeing it more with like maybe grunge, a lot of kids, young kids, like 12-year-olds wearing Nirvana t-shirts, and it's like discovering this great music of the 90s. So.
It's funny how Kurt Cobain seems to be so idolized in this generation, especially because, I listen to, primarily rock, but I like a lot of the new stuff too. And it seems like even the new guys are very influenced by guys like Nirvana and, Alice in Chains. I mean,
Yeah.
it must be wild to watch.
Yeah, I mean, Rage Against the Machine are touring this summer, and it's the hottest ticket. Everyone's raving about their show, and I know Zach hurt his leg, and he's still performing in a chair and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just the crowds are eating it up. So I never knew the loyalty to Rage that was out there. Like people have not forgotten. Like when they left last time, they were playing arenas and maybe not selling them out. This time, it's like back to solidly selling out arenas.
Yeah.
That same festival we played in Quebec, they played another stage which had an unlimited space, and I think 90,000 people showed up for them.
I think I read that. That's insanity in 2022 as well.
That's like
right?
South American numbers, when you hear Guns N' Roses in Rio de Janeiro, it's like 90,000, 100,000. So
it's insane. Does it feel different when you're touring like in South America and Europe? I mean, does it feel more palpable, the love of rock music? Because you mentioned that a second ago.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't toured South America. We'd love to, and we'd do great there, I'm sure, but it just hasn't happened. But in Europe, yeah, once you gain a fan in Europe, you have a fan for life. Like there's people over there that have followed us from 1993, 94. And they love and they analyze the music. I mean, progressive rock perhaps does better over there than it does in North America. But it never died over there. I mean, just like, disco never died there. I mean, over here, disco sucks and all this stuff at the end of the 70s. But in Europe, they're like, we love disco, and that
and it
led
never
to
ended.
the EDM music over there, and all that. So,
it's insane to even watch. Just wondering a random question, because you mentioned sort of that you guys are going to go immerse yourselves in a culture soon to be announced soon. Have you done this before as a group, and which cultures have you gone and immersed yourself in that have affected your music the most?
Well, not traveling per se. I mean, probably the biggest was when we shot the video in Istanbul, Turkey.
Right.
I mean, we had written a song that was reminiscent of something that would have been played on the saz, a long-necked lute instrument from Turkey, or an oud. And when people heard the riff, actually, they were like, "Oh, okay." Like the camera crew and all that, they were all local Turkish guys. They were like, "Oh, we almost know this song,"
Wow.
But we went to a store actually in Istanbul. Just a little side story here, but and we bought a saz, a new one, because the one we had from America, wasn't a great one. And the guy said, "I've got the best saz in the back of the store." And he wandered past, 300 different instruments, and he pulled it off the wall, and he's like, "Canadian spruce, the best." So we went all the way over there to buy a Canadian guitar. I mean, it was made in Turkey, but they had used spruce on the top, which is a very resonant wood. So a lot of guitars have spruce tops.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
The culture thing. I mean, we would play with the tabla ensemble in Toronto, and it's a fine line between, co-opting or, just borrowing the culture without trying to do it in an honest way. But I mean, we kind of look at on it as, the New York Times, there's a band from Nigeria that was playing on guitar, bass, and drums, rock music, but they're playing Nigerian folk melodies, and they're seen as the best band that year, and we're trying to do the different thing, where we're playing on sometimes music instruments from the Middle East, but we're doing maybe some hybrid of East and West, with the melodies. So
100%. Like going back to a song like Transmission, which that came out in, I believe, 97. I mean, a song like that, so many different instruments. I mean, I don't know how you guys how do you put something like that together in the studio?
That was an experiment, and it just keeps growing. I mean, it sounded like Trent Reznor went to Morocco on that one, I think. So.
Exactly. I like that.
But when we played it for the record company, a lot of times the demos are like a bunch of peaks and valleys in terms of frequencies and very harsh. And the record comes out and it's smooth, when you would hear it. But we played it for the record company, and it's very harsh demo form. And they didn't know what to say, because we'd just come off. I can't remember what the last single was for Edges of Twilight, but they heard that, and it's like, do you have anything else that's maybe a bit more normal?
That's hilarious. So they were not prepared for that.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good way to set people up though for playing other stuff. You play that shocking one first, and they're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, exactly.
I
It's
think it was
unreal.
6 or 7 minutes long too.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like you're saying, you can go through you guys' catalog, and it's like a bunch of different genres. It doesn't just sound like the same old stuff drawn out. Which I mean, that I wonder if that's more challenging, or does it make it easier for you guys in the studio to be able to expand?
Well, I mean, it's challenging to do things honestly and try and put the effort into learning some of the stuff. And it does grant you more freedom though, because you have a larger palette to paint with.
Mhm.
But we're going to make a concerted effort to do much more research before we head to this country that we're going to embed ourselves in. So I hope it works out because it's going to be fascinating. So yeah.
It's going to be super cool. So when can people expect an update about the album, or is there any idea of a release date yet, or no?
There's so much planning. I mean, we haven't written anything yet, so it's
Okay,
going to
yeah.
be 2024 before we have a solid thing to play for anybody. But and the trip probably is in 2024 because we are still going to go to Australia. Excuse me, in 2023 for a tour down there,
Nice.
and we might do one final quick tour across Canada next summer before thinking about this next plan.
Awesome. That's going to be super exciting. Well, the Tea Party is on tour coming up in a couple days here. If you're in Newfoundland, make sure to check them out. Of course, Alberta. All of the links are in the description below. And Stuart, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
All right, nice talking to you.